Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com, and we're back with this week's new comic book reviews. Now, a couple of things before we get started. This might look a little different. Why, you say? I have the new Apple iPhone 15 Pro Max. So we'll see if, I don't know if I look more horrible with this camera, but we'll see. But it might, I think there's a little more height, a little more width with the new lens on this one. I don't know if I look any better. Probably not, but we can all go with that. Second of all, this last week I got there's a company called Toddland. They're on all social medias, and they have a license for Bob's Burger, and for WonderCon, in Comic Con, and also they do a wonderful Pride Month with Bob's Burgers shirts, pins, magnets, sticker. Well, they haven't done magnets in a while. Stickers, and so what they do usually for Comic Con, they have a special thing that they do, something that's kind of a surprise. They don't announce it till like the last minute before the orders. And so it was something that was going to be mailed after Comic-Con. And I was lucky enough to get in on them because they only made 600 of these guys. And they made the woolly mammoth on roller skates. He's a nice little plushie. He's got a Wonder Wharf tag. You can see, yeah, there he is. And it's a lot of fun. Really good quality, very, very soft and everything. They really they really do, excuse me, really great merchandise. So definitely check out Toddland. They're really, really good company, a really great group of people, and their customer service is absolutely top notch. So definitely props to them. This week it's pretty big week. I will say that there's going to be a few books that I missed this week. I'll catch up with them, specifically like the Penguin #2 kind of came in late, so I wasn't able to review that this week, so I'll catch it up next week. But there's still a ton of stuff to get through this week. So, but before we get started, as always, I have changed the books. I will get my mug out of the way, and so we'll go through them really quick. First up here, we have The Question by Jeff Lemire, Dennis Cowan, and Bill Sienkiewicz. That was a really good miniseries. And then we have The Cosmic Detective by Jeff Lemire, Matt Kent, and David Rubin. This is actually the hardcover that was part of their Kickstarter thing, but there is a trade that's coming out fairly soon of this, but the hardcover was exclusive to Kickstarter. So I was lucky to get on that. And of course, David Rubin's, once again, with those three talented guys, it was a no-brainer to get in on that one. Then we have, over here, we have Scott Shaw's Comics and Stories. It's kind of a history of Scott Shaw, probably most known for Captain Carrot in his Amazing Zoo Crew at DC Comics. He also drew Sonic for a long time over at Archie. He's done a lot of things over the years, but definitely this is a great book. It shows a lot of his stuff from his files of art he's done for over the years. Not any, doesn't include any of the Zoo Crew pages or anything like that, but he did a lot of ads when he was growing up in San Diego as an artist. It's a really great book, so if you definitely catch him at a convention or a signing, he has these books. It's a really good book, and it's a really great history of his comics. And then we have Dragon Hoops by Gene Luen Yang. Any new book from Gene is an easy pick. And then of course we have the Parker the Outfit by the late great Darwin Cook. I'd bought all the individual Parkers, and then there was the Martini editions that they did of the ones that he got through. Sadly, he passed away. He was planning on doing all the novels, but unfortunately that sadly did not happen. But he left a great legacy of work, and those are definitely check out the Parker books. They're really, really spectacular. Okay, so so with the stuff behind us out of the way, let's get to the comics. First up, we have The Flash #1, written by Cy Spurr with artwork by Mark Deodato Jr. So this is a good fresh start for The Flash. Now this is the Wally West version of The Flash. So what it is the Speed Force is kind of messed up. There's kind of like Wally's getting like dark vibrations, and so he's been working with Mr. Terrific, about the Speed Force and stuff, and he's not telling Mr. Terrific kind of what's going on. But it also starts off that Gorilla Grodd is there's something about the Speed Force or something. He's looking for something called the mysterious Indigo. And so when he comes, he will trap the cops and stuff in bubbles. So there's a lot going on. The one thing I will definitely say about this is a very dense book, but in a very good way. Spurrier really has a lot to say. And it really, the one thing I noticed, you really need to kind of take your time reading this first issue, because it's just so like dense, but like I said, in a good way, because there's a lot of story he's getting through. So with these dark vibrations in the Speed Force, there's something going on. So Wally's trying to kind of figure it out, and of course he's like, I'll figure it out on my own. So he's not really telling Mr. Terrific or even his wife kind of what's going on. So there's that, but it's a really good setup to like there's kind of this kind of darker side to the Speed Force. So I really, really like this first issue. I think the thing that I most liked about it is it's superhero, but it's kind of not standard superhero stuff. And that is a big plus for this book. I think it definitely, we've gotten to the point where superhero books need to be better, and Spur has kind of taken up the mantle on this and done a really good job. And then Deodato Jr.'s artwork is really, really nice. I know there were a lot of people that were kind of like unsure if because his style's changed since his kind of old superhero days, but it really fits this story really well. And was really a perfect choice for the artwork, because it's absolutely gorgeous. But it's a good story, great art. It's really, I really enjoyed this book this week, and it was really a good kickoff, and very much intrigued to see where they take, kind of this first story arc. Next up, we have Marvel Unleashed #2, written by Kyle Starks with artwork by Jesus Herves. So Kraven had kidnapped Lockjaw, and we find out that basically that Blackheart has an army, and he's going to come and invade Earth and take over. It's the typical villain thing. I'm going to take over the world. So Red Wing, Chewie, and D-Dog are trying to stop him. And, they're Kraven's there. So actually Throg shows up, which is the frog version of Thor, to, help defeat Kraven, so they can kind of figure out what's going on with Blackheart. And somehow Mephisto's kind of tied into this whole thing. So basically, if you, it's the one of the easiest way to describe it, it's like Marvel's version of Stray Dogs, in the sense that it's not just dogs, but it's all the animal, or most of the animal characters in the Marvel universe on an adventure. And that's really the setup. Starks is doing a really nice job here. I like how he, it's serious, but it's not serious. He's having a lot of fun with the story, and that's what makes it really charming, is that it's kind of the straight superhero book, but with a lot of goofy charm to it. And that's what I really love. And Hervé's artwork is really, really nice. Drawing animals, because once again, they don't have human features, it can be kind of tough. So he's done a really good job. I really like this book. It's fun. And that's kind of the, been sorely lacking in the Marvel universe lately is really, just fun books, that are not deep and everything, and you just have a good time. And I really, really enjoy this book. Definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have Conan the Barbarian, #3, written by Jim Zub with artwork by Rob Delatorre. So what it is the first two issues, there's these kind of like warrior zombies who go into these villages and they kill people, and they also kind of kidnap some people. And so what it is Conan and Brissa have been following one of these groups back to, like, where they're coming from, and they've discovered in the citadel of Blackstone is, so what it is there's this like cult, I guess you could say, this that are, what they're doing is they put people into this, like, water, and it sucks their souls out, and then they become like, zombie warriors. And so Conan helps some of the captives get out. So, and then there's basically a battle, and it's like, it's just Conan. It's just pure Conan. And I really like what Zub is doing here, because he's just writing a good, fun Conan story. He's not creating great art here in some respects, but that's not what the book needs. It needs to be a good, solid Conan story, and he's just nailing it on that level for sure. And then Delatorre's artwork is really, really nice. It really definitely, for me, definitely captures that, John Buscema feel in Barry Windsor Smith of the original Marvel Conan series, but it's very much his own style. He's just, it's kind of like he's capturing what they did in their artwork for that feel and period, and he just really, it's just perfect visual Conan, and I really love it. I'm really digging this book. I really like it. I'm not necessarily the biggest Conan fan, but I think Zub and Delatorre are just crafting a really entertaining book, and that's what I'm really enjoying about it. Good story, good art. It's always a win. Next up, we have Stuff of Nightmares, Red Murder #1, written by R.L. Stine with artwork by Adam Gorham. So what this is, it's there's a comic creator, Alex, who's created this character, Red Murder. And, it's the typical, he did it for work for hire. They made movies, they made merchandise, and he doesn't get anything. So he kind of goes on the convention circuit to talk about it. But then he's kind of upstaged by the actor who plays, the Red Murderer. But what it is there's somebody that is masquerading as the Red Murderer going around and killing people. And of course, it happens, one of the instances happens at the convention. They think it's the actor. It's just one of those, kind of like, who is who is pretending to be the Red Murderer? It was kind of okay. I mean, it's kind of a more, R-rated R.L. Stine, book compared to like his, young adult books. But the thing was, it was just a really basic story. I mean, there wasn't any real surprises or anything, and it was just kind of felt very by the numbers. To me, it reminded me like of an average 80s slasher film. It's like, that was nice, while you were reading it, but it just really, in the end, there wasn't particularly anything memorable about it. Gorham's art was okay. I don't think it really, it did the job. It just wasn't anything really, exciting visually. He did the job, nicely, but it wasn't anything. But on the other hand, I don't think he really was particularly inspired by the story, because I wasn't. So I would say this is kind of a skip. I really, the thing is that the Stuff of Nightmares came out the same time as Skybound's Creepshow, and I think Creepshow's doing a better job at like horror stories. This is just pretty basic stuff, and for me that just wasn't good enough. Next up we have Godzilla War for Humanity #2, written by Andrew McLean with artwork by Jake Smith. So what this is there's a new kaiju, a Zoospora, who basically infects other kaijus and makes them go crazy. So Dr. Yuko Honda, when she was young, was rescued by Godzilla. So her whole thing is like Godzilla needs to go up against Zoospora and save the world. And so her and one of the other scientists are out, trying to figure out how to find Godzilla. Excuse me. And so in the meantime, Zoospora attacks another kaiju, and then the team that has created like the giant robot to fight kaijus goes after Zoospora, and they get the actual, humans get infected. So not only can Zoospora infect kaijus, but they can infect humans, and basically it's like it's not good. It's kind of like the best way to describe Zoospora is like a virus, in the sense of it's like is he trying to like rid the earth of like, and start all over? I mean, I don't know, but that's kind of the way to look at it. Like it's a viral infection infecting both kaijus and now humans. This book's a lot of fun. I think the thing is McLean's, writing a really fun story here. And, he definitely captures like, in a lot of ways, it's like a Pacific Rim type of story in some ways, because you have the humans and stuff. And I think that's kind of the one thing that's really good about the book is like the humans actually have a purpose in this story. But, and once again, Godzilla has been there in, kind of behind the scenes, but he really hasn't come into the story. So I think I like the pacing of this Godzilla story. And once again, it's not like the concept's particularly original, but it's well told for not being original. So I'll definitely give McLean that he's just telling the story well. The big win for me on this book is Jake Smith's artwork. It's really a good looking book. I think it's actually, really one of the best Godzilla books in quite a while. That's not knocking any of the other creators. It's just that his visual style is just really amazing. He draws both the kaijus really well and the humans really well. So I'm really digging this book. It's just fun. And that's really what I want from a Godzilla book is just, I want it to be fun. And that's really the most important thing is have a fun Godzilla book. And McLean and Smith are doing that here. Next up, we have Power Girl #1. Written by Lee Williams with pencils by Eduardo Pancia and inks by Julio Ferreira. So what it is Power Girl's kind of taken on a new secret identity of Paige Stetler, who is kind of like this rich, kind of socialite sort of thing. And so it allows her to kind of, go different places, it's her secret identity. So her and her friend Omen are on this ship with a bunch of rich people, trying, they're trying to, solve a mystery, and so aliens come and attack this because she has alien technology that they're auctioning off. And so the boat gets attacked and her and Omen have to, kind of, kick the bad guys off. But there's also Superman comes and visits her because apparently there's this Kryptonian virus that is coming from Paige, her biology. So that's kind of the basic setup here. It was kind of okay. I think it was just like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't anything really to jump up and down about. Williams, the story goes through all the beats and everything. I just think it was just okay. Pancia artwork is really nice, but the story was just okay. It wasn't particularly compelling. And once again, with so many books coming out, is it good enough? And for me, it was just okay. It's not something I really like, oh, I need to read the second issue. It was like, I read this, it was fine for what it was, but I'm good. So that's kind of where it lands, sadly. Next up, we have Traveling to Mars, #8, written by Mark Russell with artwork by Roberto Melli. So Roy, who is dying of cancer, has been hired by the Easy Beef Corp to go to Mars to get the mineral rights, because Earth has kind of like screwed itself, like what we're doing to it now. And so this is the final, or I should say, not the final chapter, but he finally gets to Mars. So he grabs, he gets the rights for the Beef Corp, and while he's there, because the two robots with him, Albert and Leopold, because he takes them down with him, and so what they discover is that there's a bunch of Mars rovers that have been sent there that are still there. So Leopold talks to the robot and kind of, is able to translate. And there's a big surprise at the end of the issue. The last panel will absolutely blow you away. That like a lot of stuff that's been leading up to this has just been turned completely upside down. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of the story falls out after this issue, because the one thing look, I'm a huge Mark Russell fan. This is really, really a good story. And I think it's very interesting because one of the things he's done so well is we've gotten to know Roy over these issues. So we have a great emotional attachment to Roy. It's more than just, cancer, basically dying cancer guy goes to Mars to create, that's the basic premise, but there's so much more with not only Roy, but the two robots, Albert and Leopold, who, like I said, really remind me of a little bit of the robots in Silent Running. If you've seen that film, you'll know what I'm talking about. Like I said, the story's been amazing. And Melly's artwork is it's a really good looking book. It's a real shame that, Blaze is such a small publisher that a lot of people really have been missing this book. I know that they just solicited the trade for the collection because it is going to be 11 issues. That'll come out next year, but this book is really amazing, and definitely it won an Eisner Award, and there's a really good reason why. So definitely you should be checking out this book. Next up, we have Black Hammer: The End, #2, written by Jeff Lemire, with artwork by Malachi Ward. So really, the best way to describe it, basically what Lemire is doing, he's doing kind of Crisis on Infinite Earths with the Black Hammer universe. And what it is the anti-god is destroying all the worlds, and he's also killing all the Black Hammers of different worlds, because the Black Hammer defeated him the first time, or at least, kept him at bay. And so we have Lucy and Rose, who have been sent to like the farm, from the previous. You really need to be reading Black Hammer. I'm just kind of going through the motions here, because if you have not been reading Black Hammer, this is not a good start. This is for the longtime readers. So basically what it is a space skull digger, and they're getting a team together to go against the anti-god, and that's really the premise here. But as with all great Black Hammer stories in Jeff Lemire, there's a lot more than just that. That's the setup. But we get to there's really good character development with Lucy and Rose, and the farm. This is really good, and even though Jeff Lemire has said this is the finale of the current Black Hammer universe, he said that maybe down the road that there are more stories in the Black Hammer universe, maybe not of these characters, but different characters. But this is the finale, this is the big ending for this current Black Hammer universe. I love this book. I've been praising it since pretty much day one. I've loved it to death, and it really is, as always, well worth checking out, but as long as you've been reading Black Hammer. Definitely worth a buy as long as you've been reading Black Hammer. From day one, basically. Next up, we have the Invincible Iron Man #10, written by Jerry Dugan, with artwork by Juan Feringhi. Ferengi, yeah. So the reason I picked this up is because the big news is that Tony Stark is marrying Emma Frost, and while he does, there's kind of a reason for it. So basically, I have not been reading Iron Man, so I'm going by the previously on Iron Man, which really helped a lot. So we have there's this the villain Feely Long, who has taken Stark's Iron Man technology and created mutant hunting sentinels. So Tony, that's why Tony is working with Emma to try to stop those. Rhodey has been framed for murder and is in jail. And then and there's a favor that Tony has asked Kingpin. So now Kingpin's protecting Rhodey in prison, and so obviously there'll be a price to pay. But really, this issue, they do get married, but it's really a married. They kind of get hooked into getting married, shall we say? And they, basically, they're going. Emma goes into Furlong's mind to find out, all the secrets about what he's done. So that's really the premise. It was fine. It didn't. If you've been reading Iron Man, you might like a little bit better. I mean, they did get married, but it's kind of like a marriage of convenience for the what's going on right now. The story's fine. It's a nice average superhero book. There wasn't anything that like blew me away or anything, but it wasn't like embarrassingly bad, which is always a plus. But it's fine. I don't think it was compelling to like, I'm going to start reading Iron Man. I mean, the Vegas marriage thing was kind of funny, but it was still pretty basic stuff here. Not good, not bad, just okay. For Ferengi, is artwork is actually really nice, but once again, it's just an average, superhero book. Next up, we have The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos, number 4, with the idea by James Tinian IV, Tate Brombo writing the script, and Isaac Goodhart doing the artwork. So now, in some ways, I really like the concept of this book, but I think it's also kind of, it's one of those, I think it's really going to come together, as one when this first story arc ends or the miniseries ends, because right now we're kind of getting all these snapshots, and it's one of those things. It's not so much it's challenging to read, monthly. It's just that there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff going on, but the basic. There's two ways to describe the book. Is I was a teenage Dr. Frankenstein, which is Christopher Chaos, and the other thing, it leans heavily into the universal monster type genre. And so we have Vib, who basically has kind of these mystical powers, or kind of like Scarlet Witch, I guess you could say in some ways. Then we have Geordie, who's the teenage vampire, and then we have Christopher, who's the Dr. Frankenstein. And this issue, we meet Adam, who is basically Frankenstein. And so what it is this church who is hunting down monsters is going after the kids. Adam saves them. And so now, it looks like the team's together. So that's kind of the thing. Like I said, I like it. I just think it might be one of those books that, now that we're in the 4th issue, it might read better as one story instead of like as a monthly. Sometimes that does happen, and that's not a knock on the books. Sometimes it just reads a little better when you're reading it one shot. But I still like it. I think it's just, it's kind of slowly coming together, but I do like the characters. I like a lot of the concepts here. I think it's just more like in a way with the monthly, we're kind of seeing these snapshots. So for that, I would say at this point, you might want to wait for the trade on this. We'll kind of see how this first story arc or miniseries, I'm not sure which one it is, how it kind of, all susses out in the end. So we'll kind of see, but I'm still enjoying it. I just think it's going to be a better read in one shot. Next up, we have Sainted Love, number 1, written by Steve Orlando with artwork by Giopata. Giopota. TA. Now, originally, I think this was a Kickstarter Indiegogo book, and Vault is a number of Vault titles have actually been like that. Basically, the premise here is that it starts off in 1907. So there's Malcolm, who's an inventor. He invents a lot of stuff. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. But he invents this time portal, and John, who is a boxer, they're lovers. But of course, being gay in New York in 1907, not particularly a well thought of thing. And then so what it is the cops come in, to bust them because they're gay. And so Malcolm goes through the time portal first, and then John follows. And so then we go to 1954, where there has what it is someone has set up this like it's a speakeasy for gay people. It's like this hotel it's in the back of the shop, but you have to have a key, and that key is special and it's linked to the person. So even if you have a key that's somebody else's key, it will not open the door. So so we find out about that, and then John actually comes to 1954 later. So there's, Malcolm has arrived earlier than John. And so he ends up dropping in the Hollywood Hills, and thankfully he ends up at this Hollywood star director or something that is gay. And so that's kind of it's kind of a time traveling gay story. I will say it's definitely it's not graphic in the sense, but it is. They definitely, they make they make love to each other. There's definitely, it's not for the faint of heart in some ways. The best way to describe it is like Skinamax. It's just like you don't see any fully formed bananas, shall we say. But you definitely see everything but that. Which is, I will say, I'll give Orlando, I mean, it fits into the story. I didn't think it was gratuitous or anything like that. And the other thing, it's actually really nice that it's, obviously LGBTQ friendly. And it's just, I think the story is interesting. Giopata's art is very interesting. It kind of reminds me of like Ozma Tezuka, like Astro Boy and stuff like that, where it kind of has a very simple style, but I think it kind of fits into the story. I mean, there were the only kind of complaint I had a little bit, there's a number of times where there weren't a lot of backgrounds, but overall it definitely has that kind of old kind of school manga look, which works in the story fine. But I actually kind of liked it. I think it's the one thing Orlando does is he really sets up the character of Malcolm and John, and that's really the key. So now that we know that, the story of the time traveling and all that other stuff can go forward. So I think it's worth checking out. And I did like it. So it was nice to see it released wide in comic shops. Next up, we have the Unstoppable Doom Patrol #6, written by Dennis Culver with artwork by Chris Burnham. So this is the next last issue, and so what it is it starts off with Flex Mentallo is he's like, now he's coaching there's the original Doom Patrol team, and then there's the new members, and basically he splits them off into teams, and it's a capture the flag. And so while that's happening, all of a sudden the base is attacked, and so basically what it is, it's a diversion, because they're actually, there's something to do with Dorothy, who has passed away, and the general is, there's something he needs from Dorothy's dead body. So the whole thing of them attacking the base is kind of like, a diversion, and it leads up to like, it's a good lead up to the big finale in the next issue. I'm really digging this book. I think Culver's done a really great job. And Burnham's artwork is really, really nice. It's a new fun, different take on the Doom Patrol, but I really like it where he's definitely, it still feels like Doom Patrol, but it's kind of new, especially because he's introduced a lot of new characters. I'm really liking it. I think Culver's doing a great job, and Burnham's art is just amazing in this book. Next up, we have The Revenant Queen, number 3, written by Garth Ennis with artwork by Jason Barrows. So what it is so Detective Amy's son has discovered what it is. There's this girl Bella who was kidnapped by a mass murderer, but was rescued by a cop. And what we find out is this cop is part of a corrupt team of cops. And so what it is when Detective Sun, when she confronts the cop who rescued her, he was just pulled apart by ribbons. And then the other thing that was kind of weird is that Bella's body disappeared from the morgue. Well, we kind of find out that nobody took it, that Bella is alive still, apparently, or somehow in some form. And what we think this issue is that it's not maybe Bella, that there's some sort of maybe possession or something within her that is, and this Bella is basically going after these cops for, being corrupt. So that's kind of the premise here. And then Detective and Amy is discovering kind of like the corruption and like all this kind of weird mystery stuff. I'm digging it. There's a lot to take in, and there's a lot of exposition that's going on, but the exposition really is kind of the center of the story. Ennis is really known for those type of stories. So, I mean, if you've read any of Garth Ennis's stuff, you know kind of what you're getting into. Burroughs' artwork is actually really nice, and this is an 8-issue series, so we're kind of starting to get over the cusp of like, we're still discovering stuff, and how Bella, or whatever Bella is now, is kind of how she's figuring into this story is really intriguing. As always with most Ennis stuff, I think this is going to be one of those books that really reads well as a whole. So I would say at this point, if you haven't jumped in at this point, you might want to wait for the trade on this one, but I am digging it, and I think it's moving forward quite nicely. Next up, we have the Bone Orchid Mythos Tenement number 4, written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Andrea Sorrentino. So what it is it's this group of people who live in this tenement, and this tenement has basically been transported to this other world. And so what it is when they go down to the basement, they actually find out that there's these caves and a maze underneath, and that they're trying to figure out what's going on. So there's now there were originally 8, now there's 7 of them left, and they're trying to like figure out where they are and everything. And so there's these thing called the mask, and they, as we learn in this issue, they can actually take on the appearance of somebody else. So that comes into play in this issue. And also we're kind of learning, not so much what this, and we still don't know what this maze is or why this is all happening. But it has to do with the now 7 people in this tenement. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that the Bone Orchid, because there's been the previous two books, how the last book had a lot of ravens in it, so they show up in this book. But the one thing is that all the books stand on their own, but there is interweaving of things within those. So if you haven't read those, which you should have read those, but you don't need to read those to read Tenement. Tenement is its own story. There's just elements of the other stories that kind of weave in there that are, nice little, story nuggets for the people that have read the previous 2. But I still like it. I'm a Jeff Lemire fan. Jeff Lemire, and you show up. And Sorrentino's artwork continues to just... This book is amazing. I mean, I love his artwork, but there's a lot. I mean, this is a great horror book, and he's really just going to town with it visually, and it's just absolutely amazing. Really, just, you need to be picking these books up. Just go buy them. Just go run down to your comic shop. Next up, we have Tales of the Titans, number 3, written by Steve Orlando with artwork by Keith Lobo. and Bob Quinn. So what this is this story is about this issue focuses on Donna Troy, and she's not so much she's kind of becoming an investigating journalist. That's the best way to describe it. And what it is Markova has been taken over by Baron Bedlam, and so she goes to overthrow this dictator basically. And normally she's infiltrated and the army tries to attack her and everything, but it's Wonder Girl. She beats them up really nicely. But it's a fine story. I don't think it kind of blew me away or anything, but it was a nice Donna Troy story. The artwork by Lobo, she does most of the artwork. Bob Quinn does a few pages in the back. It's nice and everything. It was nice artwork, not anything fancy, but fit the story well. I like these. I mean, it's hard, because the original Tales of the Titans, the individual stories by Wolfman and Perez were really, really spectacular. And most of these have been nice, but I don't think they've been anything that's particularly blown me away. I mean, there's a lot of Titans kind of side books right now. This is fine for what it is, and I like that they're spotlighting characters, but I don't, it's not really, grabbing me as much as I would have hoped. I think if you're a Titans fan, they're worth checking out in that respect. But I think if you're kind of fairly new to Titans, I don't think these books are really gonna draw you in. I think the main Titans book that is going right now, I think, is kind of the one to jump on for new readers. Next up, we have Void Rivals #4, written by Robert Kirkman with artwork by Lorenzo D. Felsi. So Derek and Solia, they're heading back to their worlds, and so basically what it is, you have these two races. They're basically the same race. It's almost like the Star Trek episode with the guy that has black on this side and the other guy has black. They hate each other because they're different, but there's also something going on each of the worlds. And so they sent these two to find something. And now, so what it is Solia has, taken Derek back to her world, and it's like, well, we had to work together, and then they find out that they work together. So he's thrown in jail, she's thrown in jail with him, and the two kings or leaders basically say, well, because the leader, Derek's father is the leader, and he's like, yeah, you can do whatever. I don't care. He's not my son anymore. So there's kind of all that going on. Plus, we also have the whole Transformer thing. We get to see a glimpse of what is it? Not the bad guys, and I'm losing it here. The bad Transformers. So there's something going on with that in the space pirate from the last issue. So there's kind of something going on there. So we'll kind of see. This is kind of a Transformer book, but not really. Next week we're actually getting the real Transformers book. But this is kind of interesting. Kirkman's, it's interesting. I wasn't super overwhelmed with it in the beginning, but I have to admit this book's kind of grown on me. I don't think it's not blowing me away, but I do like how he's building the characters and everything. And Delphisi's artwork is nice. It does a nice job. I think, like I said, we'll kind of see. It's kind of growing on me each issue, and so I'm kind of digging it as it goes along. Next up, we have Firepower #27, written by Robert Kirkman, with artwork by Chris Samnee. Once again, I am reviewing this because I love this book to death. So what it is the dragon has pretty much destroyed Chicago, kind of taking over there, and Owen and the family and what's left of the monastery is learning the firepower. What we learned last issue is his wife apparently can conjure up the firepower too, along with the kids. So this is so the series is coming to a close in issue 30. So this is really these last few issues are going to really lead up to the big finale. Once again, I really love this book. Like I said, I think it's one of Kirkman's best. I actually enjoy it a lot more than The Walking Dead. I don't think The Walking Dead's bad, but I really enjoy this book, and I think it has a lot to do with Chris Samnee. Artwork is amazing, and he's definitely, you could tell he's definitely involved with the story too. It's definitely a co project between the two, and I just love it. You need to be picking this up. I cannot recommend this enough. I love this book. You need to be buying this book. It's a great book. Just buy it. Go buy it. And finally this week we have one of my childhood favorites, Micronauts #1 Facsimile Edition #1. Written by Bill Mantlo with artwork by Michael Golden and Joseph Rubinstein. So this is based on they were originally Japanese toys, and then a company called Tomy brought them over here. And what was interesting is it was kind of robots and stuff, but they were just a lot of they were metal toys, which was very unusual for the time because most action figures were made out of plastic. Now there were some that were plastic, but some of them were also metal. And they visually they were really interesting. A lot of the characters were really interesting, but really there wasn't a story. They were just these, kind of science fiction toys. That's really the best way to describe the toys themselves. And then so what it was is Marvel at the time was in the late 70s was doing a lot of licensed titles. They were doing Godzilla, they were doing ROM, and somehow I think they latched onto this. And what was really interesting, what Mantlo did here is he created a whole universe because there's characters in the book that were never the toys, and he just so what it is, the basic premise is the bad guys are kind of taking over the prince and the princess. The prince was killed. The princess has escaped. And now it's like they're like the rebels trying to overthrow the bad guys. That's the basic premise here. But really the two things that was really made this series, successful in the beginning and how it's endeared or how people remember it is one, that the story was really interesting, how he took these toys that really didn't have a story and then created a story. But it was really Michael Golden's artwork that really shined through because it was very, very amazing for a licensed title, because licensed titles usually were not, it's not that the art was bad. I mean, but it was like there was not anything special. It was very standard, where this one really popped visually and it didn't look like anything else. And it didn't look like a lot of even standard superhero stuff at the time. Michael Golden was amazing. And I think that's one of the reasons why initially it was very successful. I once again, it was interesting because I had obviously not read this in years because it's been out of print. Marvel has made a new deal with Hasbro so they can reprint this stuff, and there's going to be a big omnibus reprinting the first set of stories. But it really held up really well. I mean, it's of its time, but it's, sure, the story's basic and everything, but it's well told. Mantlo does that. And then, of course, you go back to Michael Golden's artwork, which is absolutely amazing. So if you're not familiar with the Micronauts, then, I would say the $150 omnibus is not going to be in your wheelhouse, but for $5, you could definitely check out and see why everybody's kind of excited that they're able to bring this stuff back into print. I actually enjoyed it. It held up pretty darn well for its time. So it's well worth checking out this week. That's it. We're going to do it. Still another long show, but there was a lot to get through. Sorry it's taken so long. There's just too many books, too many comics. But we tried to do as many as we can each week, so you can kind of figure out where to spend your money or where not to spend your money. So with that being said, we'll wrap it up here. As always, public service announcement, I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner runs a great store. If you're in the Long Beach area, definitely check it out. It's a really good comic store, and it does all the check marks. Annie, Wendy, Derek. Their socials are great. Definitely check out their socials. And help you keep up to date with all the stuff going on at the store. It's just really good. And the customers are great too. That's the other thing. It's really good customers. But definitely check it out, and also join their Facebook group page. I post a lot of stuff. Derek posts a lot. A lot of people post stuff that's just a lot of fun. Always support your local comic shop. They're the backbone of the industry. Definitely support them. Pick up your books on a regular basis, and as always, be kind. Be kind to each other. Being kind. Be kind to yourself. That's really important. I think more so right now than ever. Definitely be kind to yourself. Take care of yourselves. But being kind to others, once again, as I always say, it's not big things. It's the little things in life that make things better for everyone. So, if you see somebody walking by, say hi or smile. Try to make eye contact to acknowledge existence. That's always a big plus. But being kind, once again, doesn't cost anything, and it really is good for everyone. And also be kind to yourself. Take care of yourselves, folks. That's really important right now. That's going to do it for this week. Thanks for watching. As always, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Comments are welcome. And as always, take care of yourselves. We'll do it again next week. Thanks for watching. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing off. We'll see you again next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.